Your father gave you love, but he didn't give you armor. He taught you to be decent in a world that rewards dominance. He taught you to speak the truth in rooms where truth is used as bait. He taught you to be patient in systems designed to consume patient men. And if you're honest, you've already felt the cost. You've watched louder, uglier, less competent people rise past you with a smile. You've been the reliable one, the moral one, the one who does the right thing, while the world treated your restraint like weakness and your kindness like access. You weren't raised for the arena. You were raised for a classroom that doesn't exist anymore. So, here is the uncomfortable reality your father couldn't bring himself to say out loud. Goodness without power is not virtue, it's vulnerability. And vulnerability attracts predators, not because the world is evil, but because human nature is opportunistic. People test boundaries the way water tests cracks. They push softly at first. A joke at your expense, a missed promise, a small disrespect. And if nothing happens, they escalate, not out of hatred, out of learning. That is why you're tired. You're not tired from effort. You're tired from being available, from being explainable, from being reasonable with unreasonable people. Tonight, we replace the code, not with cruelty for its own sake, not with empty arrogance, but with the principles that actually govern outcomes: perception, leverage, consequence, timing, distance, and controlled force. The kind of advice a man receives when the goal isn't to be liked, but to be untouchable. Because the question isn't whether you're a good man, the question is whether you're a safe man to test. Let's begin. Lesson 1 is the one your ego will fight the hardest, because it kills the story you were raised on. Your father told you, work hard and you'll be recognized. Machiavelli would look at you and say, the world doesn't reward effort, it rewards outcomes, it rewards proof, it rewards whoever controls the result and owns the story of that result. That's why you've been confused. You thought life was a fair exchange. You put in discipline, patience, loyalty, long nights, and you expected the universe to hand you respect like a paycheck. But respect is not paid out for suffering. Respect is paid out for impact. The modern man is trapped in a dangerous fantasy, the merit myth. That myth says, if you keep your head down, someone will notice. In reality, keeping your head down is exactly how you disappear. Look around. The world is full of men who work themselves into the ground and still get treated like furniture. Useful, replaceable, quietly ignored until needed again, because they confuse being busy with being valuable. Here's the brutal equation you need to tattoo into your thinking. Nobody sees your struggle. They see your leverage. Nobody feels your stress. They feel your position. Nobody rewards your intention. They reward your effect. A bridge doesn't get praised because the builder was exhausted. It gets praised because it stands. And if it collapses, nobody cares how noble the builder was. They only remember the failure. This is why your father's advice made you easy to control. If you believe effort is the currency, you'll keep paying even when the price is unfair. You'll accept disrespect because you think your work ethic will save you. You'll tolerate being underpaid because you're proud of being the hardest worker. You'll stay loyal to people who don't deserve it because you think loyalty has a guaranteed return. It doesn't. Effort is not a strategy. Effort is fuel. And fuel, without direction, just burns. So, what replaces the myth? A new rule. Stop asking, how hard am I working? Start asking, what is the outcome I control? Because the man who can produce a result is free, and the man who only produces effort is owned. This is what Machiavelli understood. Power belongs to the one who can deliver what others can't, and do it without begging for approval. If you want to rise, you don't become the hardest worker in the room, you become the most necessary. You become the man who solves the problem nobody else can solve, the man who makes things happen, the man who turns chaos into order, the man whose absence creates pain. That is leverage. And leverage is what separates a worker from a ruler. So here is your first correction. Stop wearing burnout like a badge. Stop romanticizing struggle. Stop confusing exhaustion with progress. Efficiency is not laziness. Efficiency is superiority. If another man can achieve in 4 hours what takes you 80, the world will not call you noble. It will call him the winner, and it will call you nothing at all. From today forward, you measure yourself by results, not by effort, because the world isn't watching your hands bleed. It's watching the scoreboard. Lesson 2 is where weak men start bargaining. They hear it, they don't like it, and they try to soften it into something polite, but the world doesn't respond to polite. It responds to consequences. Your father told you, always be kind, turn the other cheek, be the bigger man. Machiavelli would say, if you must strike, strike in a way that ends the problem. Not because cruelty is good, because half measures create enemies. Here's what you were never taught. Mercy given to the wrong person is not mercy. It's permission. When someone disrespects you and you laugh it off, you think you're being mature. What they learn is simple. You can be pushed. When someone crosses a boundary and you talk it out 10 times, you think you're being understanding. What they learn is your boundaries are decorations. And once people learn there is no real cost, they keep going. They escalate, not out of hatred, out of habit. This is why so many men live in constant low-level war, endless drama, recurring disrespect, the same problems returning in new clothes. Because they never ended anything. They only delayed it. Machiavelli's principle is brutal, but it creates peace. If a correction must be made, make it clean, make it final, make it expensive to repeat. Think about a child touching a hot stove. One real burn teaches faster than 1,000 speeches. The stove doesn't negotiate. The stove doesn't explain. The stove creates consequence. And consequence is what trains behavior. Controlled cruelty means this. You don't threaten endlessly. You don't yell and then forgive and then yell again. You don't give one more chance until your dignity dies. You choose the line and you enforce it. Once, decisively. That doesn't mean violence. It doesn't mean being abusive. It means being willing to remove access, comfort, and opportunity the moment someone proves they can't handle it. If a friend disrespects you repeatedly, you don't keep them around and complain about it. You cut them off. If a partner tests your boundaries, you don't reward it with attention. You withdraw access. If someone in your business poisons the team, you don't delay and hope it improves. You remove them before the rot spreads. Your father's style creates a wounded enemy, someone you corrected gently, but left close enough to keep taking shots at you. A wounded enemy is dangerous. They're resentful, they're motivated, they have time. Machiavelli would tell you, don't wound threats, end threats. And here is the deeper truth most men avoid. Kindness without the ability to be harsh is not kindness. It's helplessness. A harmless man isn't good, he's simply incapable. Real kindness is chosen, not forced. You only earn respect when people know you have teeth, because then your calm isn't weakness, it's control. So understand the rule. If you let disrespect live in your world, you pay for it daily. If you end it once, you buy peace. And peace is not the absence of conflict. Peace is the absence of threats that think you're easy. That is controlled cruelty, not rage, not ego. A clean lesson delivered once, so you never have to teach it again. Lesson 3 is where most men lose the game before it even starts, because they think power comes from what you are. It doesn't. Power comes from what people believe you are. Your father told you, just be yourself. People will see your heart. Machiavelli would say, people don't see your heart. They see your posture, your tone, your results, your confidence, your reputation. Most people don't have the time or the interest to understand you. They make quick judgments and move on. And those judgments decide everything. Who gets respect? Who gets ignored? who gets opportunities, who gets tested. This is the law. Reputation is not a mirror of your character. Reputation is a weapon, and if you don't build it on purpose, someone else will build it for you by accident. You've seen it happen. A man walks into a room and people straighten up, not because he's the nicest, but because he carries a signal, standards, authority, consequence. Another man walks in and people joke, interrupt, push limits, not because he deserves it, because he signals softness, and the world is always reading signals. So stop treating reputation like a side effect. Treat it like engineering. You decide what people should associate with you, and then you make sure every public moment supports it. Not fake, not a fraud. Curated, because there is a difference. A fraud lies about what he can do. A strategist controls what he shows. Machiavelli understood this. A leader is always being watched, even when no one is speaking. Your image is your first line of defense. If you look uncertain, people will pressure you. If you look needy, people will exploit you. If you look messy, people will assume your life is messy. You don't get judged on your best day. You get judged on what's easiest to notice. That's why authenticity is a trap for men who want power. Being real is not automatically respectable. Sometimes being real means being undisciplined, emotional, reactive, sloppy, complaining, oversharing. That may feel honest, but it makes you weak in public. And public weakness becomes your label. So here's what you do instead. You build an avatar, a version of you that carries the traits you want to be known for. Calm, decisive, controlled, dangerous when necessary, respectful but not approachable. When you're angry, you don't rant, you get quieter. When you're unsure, you don't explain, you ask questions. When you're hurt, you don't beg, you withdraw. When you're winning, you don't brag, you let the results speak. And you stop giving people free access to your inner chaos. Because the more people know about your fears, the easier you are to move. Oversharing is not connection. Oversharing is handing out handles. This doesn't mean you become cold to everyone. It means you become selective. There are people you can be open with in private, but in the arena, you are not yourself. You are your role. You are your standard. You are your reputation. Because in real life, perception becomes reality the moment other people act on it. And they will act on it. They will promote the man they trust. They will follow the man they respect. They will test the man they think won't bite. So decide, right now, what happens when people think of you. Do they think reliable and harmless? Or do they think competent and costly to cross? That choice is lesson 3. You don't wait to be understood. You make yourself undeniable. Lesson 4 is the one that breaks the nice guy spell, because it exposes the ugliest misunderstanding your father handed you. He taught you that people repay goodness. They don't. They repay leverage. Your father told you, help others and they'll help you. Be generous and it will come back around. Machiavelli would say, men are loyal while it costs them nothing. The moment it costs them something, loyalty becomes optional. That sounds bitter until you look at your own life. How many times have you carried someone, supported them, listened to them, stayed late for them, covered for them, lent them money, gave them opportunities, and when you needed one small thing back, they vanished? And the worst part is what it does to you. It makes you angry, then ashamed for being angry, then you question your own character, but you were never dealing with morality. You were dealing with human nature. Most people don't experience generosity as a gift. They experience it as a debt, and debt makes people uncomfortable. So instead of loving you for it, they start resenting you. You become a reminder of what they owe, a mirror of their dependence, a quiet accusation standing in the room. That's why the man who does everything for everyone often gets treated the worst. Not because he's bad, because he's free. He gives without consequence, so people take without respect. So here is the correction. Stop building your life on gratitude. Gratitude is unreliable. Gratitude is emotional. Gratitude fades the moment someone's situation changes. Instead, build your life on necessity, because necessity doesn't fade. Necessity doesn't care about mood. Necessity keeps people disciplined. If you want security, don't be the most liked person in the room. Be the most needed. In your work, this means you stop being helpful and start being critical. You learn the system nobody understands. You own the relationship nobody else can replace. You become the person who can solve the ugly problem that keeps everyone else awake. Not by bragging, by quietly becoming the keystone. A keystone is the stone in an arch that holds everything together. Remove it, and the structure collapses. When you are a keystone, people don't mistreat you casually. They don't risk losing you. They don't gamble with your absence. That's power. In relationships, the lesson is just as sharp. Don't try to buy love with overgiving. It backfires. People value what they can lose. They respect what has standards. They protect what has options. So you give strategically, not to manipulate, but to preserve balance. You don't empty yourself to prove you're good. You keep a reserve of time, of attention, of resources, of access. Because the moment you give someone everything, you teach them they can survive without earning it. And when they can survive without earning it, you become background. You become furniture. This is where men misunderstand Machiavelli and become petty. This lesson is not never help anyone. It's never make yourself disposable. Help, but don't overinvest. Support, but don't subsidize disrespect. Give, but never give in a way that weakens your position. And, most importantly, never confuse being needed with being used. Being used drains you. Being needed anchors you. Your father wanted you to be loved for your generosity. Machiavelli wants you to be protected by your value. Because, in the end, people don't stay close because you were kind. They stay close because life is harder without you. Lesson 5 is the skill your father warned you about your whole life. He called it being fake. He called it playing games. He called it politics. Machiavelli calls it survival. Your father told you, be straightforward, say what you mean, play it clean. Machiavelli would say, if you are only honest and direct, you become predictable, and predictability is a liability. Because the world is full of traps designed specifically for predictable men. If you are always the good guy, people learn how to use your guilt. If you are always reasonable, people learn how to drag you into endless discussions. If you are always transparent, people learn exactly where to hit you. So, Machiavelli gives you a model. You must be a fox and a lion. The fox sees the trap. The lion scares off the threat. Most men pick one, and that's why they lose. If you are only the lion, loud, forceful, aggressive, you will eventually get outmaneuvered by someone quieter and smarter. You'll walk into a deal you didn't read. You'll trust the wrong person. You'll charge forward and discover too late that the battlefield was staged. And if you are only the fox, clever, careful, diplomatic, you will eventually get cornered by someone who doesn't care about clever, someone who just takes, someone who uses force, authority, or chaos to overwhelm you. Power requires both modes. Fox is strategy. Lion is enforcement. Fox is reading people, reading rooms, reading incentives. Lion is making people feel the weight of your boundaries. So, what does it look like in real life? In work, Fox means you stop thinking promotions are awarded like medals. You study who makes decisions, who influences them, who gets protected, who gets credit, who gets blamed. You learn when to speak and when silence makes you look stronger. You learn how to present ideas so they're accepted, not resisted. You learn how to make your boss feel smart while you quietly steer the ship. That isn't corruption. That's understanding the game you're already trapped inside. And lion means you don't let people play with you. You don't accept disrespect just to keep the peace. You don't tolerate repeated incompetence around you. You don't negotiate your core boundaries. When you need to be firm, you become firm fast. The mistake most men make is they wait too long. They collect disrespect like receipts. They smile while they're boiling. Then one day they explode, and everyone acts shocked. A lion doesn't explode. A lion signals early. A look, a pause, a calm, no, a consequence. And the real art is switching between them without emotion. Fox mode, calm, curious, observant. Lion mode, calm, decisive, final. Notice what's missing. No ranting, no begging, no over-explaining. Because the moment you get emotional, you become readable. And readable men are controllable men. So here is your rule. Never show all your cards. Not because you're paranoid, because you're not stupid. You don't announce your plan while you're still building it. You don't tell everyone your next move. You don't give people your fears and then act surprised when they use them. You let them underestimate you. You let them misread you. Then you move. This is what your father couldn't teach you because it sounds wrong. But it's only wrong in fairy tales. In the real world, the man who can only be one thing is easy to beat. The man who can be both fox and lion is harder to trap, harder to pressure, and dangerous to test. Lesson 6 is the moment you stop living like the world is neutral. Because your father taught you something beautiful and dangerous. If you are good, people will be good to you. If you mean well, people will mean well back. Machiavelli would say, a man who tries to be good in every situation will get destroyed by men who are not. Not because the world is pure evil, because the world is mixed. And mixed environments punish naive rules. Here is the trap. You were raised with a moral default. You walk into rooms assuming fairness until proven otherwise. You trust words until actions force you not to. You excuse red flags because you don't want to be judgmental. And predators love that about you. Not movie villains, regular people. The coworker who smiles while collecting information to use later. The friend who only calls when they need something. The partner who tests you with small disrespect, then acts innocent when you react. They're not all monsters, but they all respond to opportunity. And the moment they sense you won't enforce consequences, you become an opportunity. So you need a new default, not paranoia. Reconnaissance. You stop assuming people are noble. You assume people are self-interested. That doesn't mean you hate them. It means you understand them. Human beings protect themselves first. They protect comfort, status, advantage, ego, and when those things are threatened, even good people become very creative with their morals. That's why Machiavelli doesn't build systems on trust. He builds systems on incentives, contracts, and consequences. Your father said, he's a good guy. Machiavelli asks, what does he gain? Your father said, she didn't mean it. Machiavelli asks, why did it happen again? This is where your life changes. You stop listening to what people claim, and you start tracking what they repeatedly do. Words are cheap because words are flexible. Actions are expensive because actions reveal priorities. If someone constantly forgets to pay you back, they didn't forget. They decided it wasn't urgent. If someone apologizes but keeps repeating the same behavior, the apology is not a change. It's a delay tactic. If someone only respects you when you're angry, they don't respect you. They fear the consequence. And fear is the beginning of order. This lesson also applies to how you build your future. If you're in business, you stop doing handshake deals because someone feels like family. You write it down. You define roles. You define ownership. You define what happens when things go wrong. Because relationships don't fall apart when everything is easy. They fall apart when pressure arrives. And pressure reveals nature. If you're in a relationship, you stop living on memories and promises. You live on the current reality. Is there effort now? Respect now? Consistency now? Because love from 10 years ago does not protect you today. Daily value protects you. Daily standards protect you. Daily direction protects you. Your father's optimism made you generous with benefit of the doubt. Machiavelli teaches you to be stingy with it, not cruel, just accurate. Because every time you ignore a crack, you pay later with collapse. So here's the rule you adopt. Trust is earned slowly. Betrayal is recognized quickly. The moment someone shows you who they are, don't argue with it. Don't decorate it. Don't explain it away to keep your fantasy alive. Believe it. Your father raised you to see the world as a place you can soften. Machiavelli raises you to see the world as a place you must read. Because the man who reads reality clearly doesn't need luck. He needs timing. Now you understand what your father couldn't hand you. Not because he was evil, because he was trying to raise a good son in a world that punishes good sons. But this is the turning point. Knowing these rules is not power. Using them is. The real test isn't what you felt while listening to this. It's what you do when someone disrespects you tomorrow. When you're tempted to over-explain, when you're tempted to forgive too fast, when you're tempted to trade your future for comfort, that is where men split into two types. The ones who go back to sleep, and the ones who build a life that cannot be taken from them. If you want to be the second type, don't treat this like motivation. Treat it like a code, a discipline, a new standard. Move with intention, speak less, watch more, choose your battles, end what needs ending. And if you're serious about becoming dangerous through understanding, subscribe and like this video. Not for entertainment, for alignment, because the man who commits to the path does not drift back into weakness. He returns to the world as a problem. You will not be easy again.